I'm Dan, and I'm one half of Fore Adventure, an adventure business based in Studland, Dorset, which I run with my wife Jade. I deal with the face-to-face operational side of the business, making sure that people are safe out on the water, on the stand-up paddleboarding, the kayaking, the foraging, the bushcraft, and Jade does all of the creative and the business development stuff, ensuring that we have a business that works and functions. So our typical customers would be families, tourists, and we get lots of people who want to learn a new skill, particularly around the foraging, or it might be a specific paddle sport that they want to pick up, and we just help people on their adventures. So when the pandemic first turned up, and when it became apparent that it was going to affect all of us in pretty life-changing ways, we're pretty worried. We were really worried about our families, we were worried about our own personal health, we were worried about our children, we were worried about our business. During the lockdown, when it had first started, we recognised that we needed to maintain our profile, so we were using Instagram and Twitter and that kind of stuff, the standard stuff we would do. I think the key thing for us to maintain our market during the pandemic was to make sure that we were really positive. So lots of positive messages, lots of lovely imagery of adventures and nature, and people really resonated with that. It was fabulous. Sourcing images for all of our media, if it was specific for the website, we might do some photo shoots, so we might actually work with professional photographers. Some of that we can do in-house because Jade's really handy with a camera, which is great. And the other way we would do that is that we would all carry cameras, so we've all got a smartphone in our pocket, and they're great tools for us to use. I carry a waterproof point and press camera. Every now and again some of my imagery makes it, and also because we're in and around the business so much, Jade has always got her digital SLR with her, and she's always snapping off shots because we just need that bank of imagery. It's just, I can't say how important that is for you all. The dust had settled, and we needed to sort of reassess what we're doing. So one of the first things we did is we looked at the customer experience. So we looked at how customers book and the issues they were finding with that. And we realised, we identified that we probably needed a new booking system. So we started to research that, and we've identified one which we'll be putting in place. And we also identified that we would need a new website, which was clearer, much more customer friendly, and a much better way of displaying ourselves, which in turn actually makes our lives a lot easier from understanding our own business internally. The other thing that we did was some really basic stuff. So we looked at, we realised it wasn't enough just having nice staff delivering nice activities. We really needed to formalise how we met clients and the whole experience, and that's not about taking away people's individuality. For example, it allows our kayak guides to meet clients in a standard way. They need to cover all of the COVID secure stuff that they need to do, and then they can go out on the water with their safety briefings. When they're on the water, they can still be themselves, they can still do all the other things. It lets them do that. The other really important thing that it does for us is it means that at any point during a session, somebody can step in and take over, which is so useful. The other thing that we found as well with the standardisation, particularly with the farewells, can we have a TripAdvisor review please, and is incredible, because if you say to a staff member, ask for a TripAdvisor review, yeah, I'm going to ask for a TripAdvisor review. If you put a process in place, they then get regular TripAdvisor reviews, and for their own sense of achievement at work, that's fabulous, and obviously it's a no-brainer for the business. We also simplified a lot of our products, so we had so many different things, so actually we really looked at our core products. This is great, we'll keep this, we'll lose that one, and we just refined, and it was really successful. The other thing we did is we made sure we're working with lots of different people, so local chefs, other local businesses, linking up with campsites, accommodation providers. We really did start to do our networking and make that happen. As part of the sort of unpicking during COVID, we realised we needed to sort of adapt our offerings. So there's a booming staycation market, so we started to look at some of the overnight mini expeditions we can offer, and some of those might be, turn up late, paddle, sleep, breakfast, go. So they fit in around people's busy lives. We also started to look at how we're offering events, and we wanted to sort of almost future-proof ourselves. So it was a bit scary, but we've invested some money in a Citroen H-van, which we're going to be using to support our foraging events, so we can run them anywhere. And also that leads into some other projects we've got around being able to do some more food and that kind of stuff. With all of the foraging that we're doing, we did lots of work around seaweed, and one of the things that we had been sort of thinking about and talking about for a long time, but the pandemic gave us the time to really explore, was we set up our seaweed brand, which is Say, which is Anglo-Saxon for sea, and we literally go into the sea with our scissors and our cutters, and we select really high quality seaweed, and we bring it back, we dry it, and then we sell that. And the pandemic enabled us to do that, and that goes to restaurants, chefs. We can sell it directly to customers, so it's a really good way to add another income stream to our business. So obviously the impact of COVID was pretty catastrophic, and then we started adding in all of the new activities and adventures and products, and what that has meant is obviously that's going to bring more money into the business, but crucially what it's done is it's extended the season, which extends the staff contracts, and we're hoping in the future to be able to take those contracts full time over the winter, and that makes your staff team, they're that much happier, and if they're happier, they're better at working, your products are better, your customers are happier, your bottom line's better. It's an absolute no-brainer. So when the customers started to come back, it happened quite quickly. They all seem to come overnight, which is fabulous. A lot of single household families rather than sort of grouped families. So, we had to adjust our offerings and our pricing structures to reflect that, and we had to be very adaptive and reactive to do that. We also saw the staycation market was booming, so we needed to be providing things for people to do that, and that's part of the reason we developed some of the overnight stays that we've done, and also particularly that key linking up with the local accommodation providers and the campsites to ensure that we could be part of that process as well. And that works both ways. It's really nice when businesses are, mutually supporting each other. Yeah, so some of the benefits from working with people we hadn't worked with before, particularly with, for example, the accommodation providers, they have this untapped resource that we hadn't really been very good in, apart from geographically we're close. But as simple as having a conversation and being able to pass people between the businesses was super helpful, and that comes back to those relationships with people. And also it meant with the food and events that we do, so working with the guest chefs has been really exciting, because they have different produce that they might like to bring, and they can source different ingredients from places, different ways for you to present your food, different ways of dealing with customers. It's been fabulous. Overall, COVID had massive impact on all of us. I mean, personally, it enabled us to stop and really look at where we wanted the business to go, which perhaps we wouldn't have done. So that was a real positive. Some other positives, I think, about the efficiency of how we work. So, much as, all of these virtual meetings that we all have are quite difficult, actually for us, being able to access training virtually has been absolutely superb, and particularly for training our staff team. So I'd really encourage people to look at some of those examples we're not always comfortable with. A couple of the key things which came out of the pandemic were it enabled us to actually work on the business rather than in the business, much as I like paddling kayaks around the place, and it also gave us an opportunity to really put a lot of trust on the staff team, because they had to step up this year and they had to do lots of things that they perhaps weren't comfortable with, but with the right support and training, they've really thrived, and we're keen to continue that, keen to keep giving them more responsibility, more things to do to enable us to work on the business. So I think what makes us most proud in how we've responded to the pandemic is that we were able to maintain our high standards, and we can sort of quantify this because we've been getting great direct feedback from our customers. We've also, our review site's been doing well, so looking at TripAdvisor, looking at Google, all of that kind of stuff's been doing fabulously. And also our staff team, really stepped up this year. They went above and beyond. And really engage their thinking, creative brains to help sort out all sorts of different problems, and they were solving problems rather than revolving them. So that was fabulous. fabulous. I think going back to the start of the pandemic, and that one piece of advice, that's going to be to stop, assess, make a plan and be creative.